Good evening and happy Friday, traders. This is Tanner with Charting Options. Today is December 3rd, and I am here to briefly discuss the Lotto Friday ideas for today that were disseminated this morning. We had 6 different ticker ideas: AMD, LCID, QQQ, Roblox, SPY, Tesla. You can see the levels that we had predetermined on your screen, as well as the results from all 6 of these tickers, all 6 of which triggered to the downside, providing the opportunity for fairly straightforward trades. I almost want to say the word easy, but nothing is ever easy in the market, so I will refrain from using that word. But it is really nice when the entire market is moving one way and we are seeing tailwinds from the broader end of the market to our trigger, to whatever side that is, today being to the downside. You couple that with the fact that flushes or moves to the downside are always faster, which are preferred on Friday when we're trading 0-date expiration calls. Calls or puts, contracts, should I say, options. But reason being is the old adage in the market: price takes the stairs up, but it takes the elevator down. And that is critical on Fridays when trading 0-date expiration, because price needs to move in the direction that we have bet that it will move. It cannot trade sideways. It cannot trade against us because of theta decay and the premium that will be eaten away from our contracts if price does not move in the direction that we have placed a bet for it to do so. So today was really nice in that the whole market pulled back. So you could have, in theory, blindly bought puts at open on just about anything, and you would have been up at some point today. But I will digress from that. We'll go over the price action for today. We'll discuss the levels that were set, how they were set coming into the day. I'll mainly focus on the levels to the downside just to keep this video somewhat concise. Let's see, did I touch on everything? Well, I guess one thing I do want to say, because it has been a little bit since I've created a Lotto Friday video, just last week being a shortened day following Thanksgiving and all of the news that came out with the Omicron, the COVID variant. We did not choose to have Lotto Friday. So I just want to remind everybody that these results you see on your screen are as if you played these trades perfectly. So that is the beginning price here. You can see, just using AMD as an example, 153 is the price of the 147 put at trigger. So at trigger being a 10-minute candle close below 148.13. At that moment in time, that is what that 147 put cost. And then had you sold it at the very tippy top, or if you want to say bottom because we're trading short, you could have reaped a 301% move by selling at 614. Now, and this is one thing that trying to grapple with my words here, but I have taken a step back from sharing our Lotto Friday results with the broader group of FinTwit, because I believe there is a unjust glorification of Lotto Friday, and I do not believe that enough traders make it a point to truly provide not only educational material for Lotto Friday, but there is a fugazi or a farce. Farce is the better word in the market, that these are easy trades and that everyone captures all of the percentage that resulted, and that is just not the case. If you perfectly traded this, yes, maybe 300%, but there's so much profit to be reaped in between there to make just a satisfactory trade where you can walk away from Friday and be just as happy with 30%, 50%, 100%. That'd be an awesome trade. So do not look at these end results and think, I sold that for 50%. Wow, what could have been? Yeah, that's true. What could have been, and you can. There's things to combat that fear of missing out on gains by scaling out and having additional contracts and leaving runners. And there are things to do to attempt to capture everything, but you will not capture this number here on the right. You just will not do it. If you abide to the exact levels and time frame candle confirmation that I have set out. Now, you can certainly trade these in different formats, and you can trade these on lower time frames and enter well before a 10-minute candle confirmation. That is entirely up to you as the trader. But if you followed exactly how I have laid it out, do not feel bad if you did not capture the entirety of all these numbers, because no one is. I'm not. No other trader is. I mean, maybe every now and then someone's pretty damn close. But I just want to make sure that It is important to keep a good mindset on Friday because it is Lotto Friday. It is intended to be fun, and you are intended to put money into the market that you are okay with completely going to zero at the end of the day, and you'll have just as good of a weekend as if you had doubled that money. I mean, that's hard to say, but you get my point there. So don't ever feel down on yourself if you do not capture everything. Now, there are always ways, or there are always things you can reflect on to maybe attempt to capture even more in the future, but don't do anything more than that. Constructively criticize the trade and how you could have potentially reaped more. But with that being said, we did have 6 tickers today provide the potential for 100+% return, 3 of which over 300%, and we'll unpack all of that right now. Thank you for bearing with me and listening to my tangent a little bit. I just want to make sure that that is understood by everybody. Let's see. All right. We'll start with AMD. We'll talk about, obviously, the price action. Maybe we'll keep this a bit smaller for now. So just a quick preface. This darker vertical rectangular box is all of today's price action. The color tone changes within this chart, this 10-minute chart, represent an entire day of price action. Each candle represents 10 minutes of price action. I build these levels on Lotto Friday and the day trade ideas throughout the week based on the 10-minute candle or a 10-minute time frame. I do so because of various things, but ultimately a happy medium between the 5-minute and the 15-minute. Some traders prefer more confirmation, some traders less. On Friday, you certainly can get away with getting less confirmation because we are in and out. These are scalps because we have time completely against us with them being 0 day expiration. And sometimes we're almost 3 hours till expiration, depending on when a ticker actually triggers to the upside or the downside. So it's really important to be diligent in your entries and obviously have your own discretion as a trader. You do not have to wait for a 10-minute candle confirmation. And if you notice that some of the setups that we have built are based off of trendline losses, which are really hard for me to time when that's going to happen. So I have to just set a level and anticipate that corresponding with the move. You can enter before it triggers because you know the actual point of the trigger was a trendline loss. Like right here, AMD, for example, is perfect. So we have a series of higher lows dating back to the 23rd, and this goes even further back in time than the 23rd. Price used it yesterday as support and bounced, and basically today we wanted to just see price lose it, and then you could get short. I used this intraday low here, this 12 o'clock low from yesterday, as the trigger to the downside, just simply because we don't know when price could lose that level. So you want to be mindful that it's going to lose the trend line, but also still provide enough cushion to profit from a trade. So it's really tough, but just be mindful of that. So you could already have entered AMD up here at 150 because you knew it was losing this bearish triangle, and you could have reaped $2 more of the move as opposed to waiting for this trigger for it to actually trigger and get below this level. Or you could have waited even here to lose this trend line itself, which was more so what I was looking for. And you could have entered just a little bit earlier than the actual trigger to the downside, because here we had this really nasty 10-minute candle through 148. And by the time Discord gets the alert or I notify you in Twitter, it's already moved a 1.5. That does an incredible amount for premium right there. That could have been the whole trade. Literally, you could have put on a 147 put from right here before I even announce on the 10-minute. So you're on the 3-minute, say, for example, and you're seeing, all right, it's losing it. Yeah, we're ahead of the 10-minute, but we understand that this is the trade. The trade is this trend line loss, and you could have reaped more of the move. So I just want everyone to kind of be cognizant of that while they're trading these, because though during the week, I may trade on a higher time frame if I'm day trading or scalping. On Fridays, I am in no way remaining on the 10-minute. I may wait for the 10-minute confirmation, but I do not trade on the 10-minute after entry. I am usually down to at least the 3-minute. And we'll talk a little bit about that as I get in. But let me digress a little bit and just here go with AMD. I already kind of hit on what we were looking for. We were looking for a breakdown of this trend line. I used this low as confirmation because that no matter what time in the day today, that would have been confirmation for a trend line loss. And then from there, AMD flushed with the whole entire market. I put in these blacked out lines to the upside and the downside just as potential targets. The first one was just yesterday's low. The second being this low from November 23rd. You can see price quickly ate through that like it was nothing. It attempted to get back above, left this huge wick, and then pushed lower to the lows of the day. So you're scaling out, you're moving up your stop, and you're not being greedy. You're not chasing that final result number to maximize the complete gain of the trade, because that just is it's a farce. It's just not going to happen. So please get that out of your head on Friday. And couple that with correct position sizing, and it makes for just a lot more, a much freer and fun trade. So yeah, AMD obviously flushed, really gave you no reason to waver until here. It started basing at 141 support, which if we look left in the chart has been an area of horizontal support. So from there it just based and traded higher. So really straightforward trade with AMD. All of these are just the same. QQQ similar. Our trigger to the downside was just this intraday low from yesterday. Nothing more straightforward than that. You can see this was also working through a bearish triangle, so to speak. It lost the trend line at the end of the day. And then from there it flushed, similar to AMD. It never created a new high. We did have this inside 10 minute that showed potential reversal, but because it got below yesterday's low and then couldn't get back above, you can see price wicked it twice, or wicked at it. It attempted to, but it was never that's a bit thick and a bit bold and red. I don't want it red. Keep it black. You can see price tried, but was rejected and then flushed lower, and then obviously rinse and repeat here down here as well. Now, if you're on the 3 minute, you can see that these are usually bear flags. It may not look like it here on the 10 minute, but this is a pretty apparent bear flag on the 3 minute that breaks down. So it's just a series of bear flags being broken down in the same sense as you'd see bull flags if we were trading this to the upside. So you can see Qs did push off the lows of the day after attempting to base a little bit for several hours before close. So we'll see if that has any sort of traction into Monday. But regardless, QQQ, very similar to AMD, a very straightforward trade that provided the potential for a 300% winner here. Big trade. I traded personally QQQ myself, and I think I traded it with you guys today a little bit on a separate scalp from mine. LCID, we wanted to see price lose this series of lower lows that had been created over the last couple weeks. So 22nd was when it started. The 23rd, it bounced off it again. Yesterday, it bounced off it again. And then end of the day yesterday, it got below it, but quickly got back above. So we were just using this low as our trigger to the downside, and that would have corresponded with a loss of the trend line. So this is a perfect example about the tangent I went on earlier, in that if you were on your stuff and you were cognizant or aware that, hey, this setup is for this trend line loss, you would have been able to enter up here as opposed to down here at 46 when Discord got the alert and got below this low, and you would have actually been able to reap a much bigger trade than what would have happen had you just followed the Discord alerts. So obviously I know that is not practical for everybody. Everybody's activity levels on the screen are very different, so that is why I make it a point to announce on Discord, or well, Discord gets the alert from TrendSpider that I set in the morning, and then I make it a point to announce on Twitter because you guys are not watching the screens like I am 24/7 all day every day. So, and I know that, but if you are, be aware that these can be traded against, or not against, but prior to the actual announcement via Discord or Twitter. And for this is a good example because had you waited, this was a really quick scalp. This was not at all a very good trade in terms of being able to just sit and wait. You pretty much had to get in, get out. Because you can see price quickly bounced, tried to get back above the level, and then flushed again, which gave you another re-entry. But ultimately, Lucid held in a little better than I anticipated it to. It saw a lot of support in this 45 range. So I'm curious to see if that holds into next week. And if it does, it's probably a pretty good spot to get long. And if it is lost, it is damn sure a good spot to get short. So we'll see if that continues. But all in all, Lucid provided one of the tougher trades had you just traded it in correspondence with the alerts. Okay, Roblox, kind of similar. We wanted to see price get below this intraday low from yesterday, so I have this a bit bigger than the others because we're using more days to represent or to exemplify what we're looking for. But basically, we had this series of lower lows developed from the 23rd, and then Monday, or excuse me, this is Wednesday, the 1st of December, off of this late November 16th low. You can see the price bounced off it here, and if you look already, if you're ahead of me, you can see that price bounced directly off of it today as well. But what we wanted to see was price get below this intraday low, and then you could have traded it at least to this trend line, at the very least. Now, if it got below, that would have been a hell of a trade and provided quite a flush for you. But it did not do that, but it still provided the opportunity for a scalp to the downside and a pretty good trade. From there, you can see, if, as I keep touching on, if you were cognizant of this trend line, this hammer off the trend line, it undercut it and got back above and built a hammer. That was your get the hell out of the way. That was like, okay, they're stepping in here. This is probably the next several minutes, or the next several 10-minute candles are likely going to go against my short position, which we know on Friday is a no-go. We need price to move with our position. You get the hell out of the way, and you take what you got and you move on. Pretty straightforward from that. SPY was holding on to this channel, which seems to be not drawn the best. We wanted to just basically see price get below this 45.50-ish mark. I used this low, the 30th, which was Tuesday's low, as the actual trigger to the downside. You can see on Wednesday, it acted as a pivot once price lost it. On Thursday, it acted as a pivot to the upside once price was able to reclaim it here. Finally, it tried in the morning, pulled back, and then used this trend line as support, and then finally got back above, retested, and then pushed the highs of the day yesterday. So we just simply wanted to see price lose this, and you can see that it did so. It tried to get back above just like it did previously, and then eventually flushed off of it. So this was a bit trickier if you immediately entered on this candle confirmation at the lows. Now, if you were a bit more disciplined and you just more patient with the trade and you waited to see how the next 10 minutes went, you were able to kind of feel out what price wanted to do, and then ultimately the best entry here was on this 10-minute candle, where price prior got back above and then lost it and closed below the low of the previous 10-minute candle. That was your signal to get really short if you weren't already short. So you could have added there, but this was a little trickier in that it gave us a retest and we got the close back above the level, but then it failed. So I would probably say on my part, I could have set this better, and maybe we could have used just a bit higher. We could have used the 456, which I know is a big level. We probably should have just used 456. You would have gotten the candle close below, gotten the retest, and then rejection, which would have made for a much easier trade. So I will be better and address that going forward. But all in all, a pretty good trade, and you can see that I need to be better about drawing these trend lines too. You can see, let me Control Z there so you can see, but I had built it off of this second low on the 26th, but I had gone a little too high on the wick. If you look, I can keep going, and we're still in the wick, and that looks a lot better now, right? It looks all of a sudden like, whoa, this is actually where the trend line is, because now we have a true concrete use of the trend line for support. This is the final 10-minute candle of December 1st, so that is typical. There's a little bit of shakeout closing below it, and then price quickly got back above, and then retested, and then pushed to the highs yesterday. And then today, after flushing below, which I moved that to 456, let me put this back to our trigger, 455, after moving below, it bounced off of it, used it as support, pushed higher, pulled back again, bounced off it again, and pushed higher into close. So trend lines work, guys. Use the trend lines as support and resistance, and if price breaks them to the upside, get long. If price breaks them to the downside, get short. It's no more complicated than that. Tesla was just an awesome trade today. I traded Tesla several times. I rolled down my puts several times because of the magnitude of this trendline loss. You can see right here we have 14 days of price, so that's why the candles are a bit more bundled together, harder to see, but it dates back to the 15th of November, this trend line, and that actually goes even further back in time to earlier in November. So we have a month of trend line support that price was working at the bottom of coming into today's session. So this darker vertical box is yesterday's session. The low of yesterday bounced directly off that trend line, pushed higher, and then really just traded sideways until close and had formed this bearish triangle. So it was no more complicated than that. We wanted to see price lose this trend line. If it did, the magnitude of that loss was huge, and it was a great short, much like Neo from yesterday. And sure enough, and I cheated. Everything I talked about with AMD and the others in that, I didn't wait for the 10-minute confirmation because I knew the point of this trade was this trendline loss. So I entered on the 3 or 5 minute today on the loss. So I was able to get in ahead of the Discord alert. And had you done that, you would have reaped the potential of a bigger trade because I think what did I have? It was like $11 had you entered on the actual 10-minute close, which ended up closing like below 1060. Even though our pivot was like 1063. So so at that point it was about 1150 the put contracts, the 1050 puts, but had you entered up here on the actual trendline loss, I think I bought them for like 450. So I had already doubled my money before Discord had even got the alert. Unfortunately, that is just the way it is, guys, because it's just not, there's no perfect way for me to ideally do that. But just speaks to, if you are an active trader and you're trading, just to be cognizant of the lines I draw and be aware that those are what we're looking for price to lose. Now, obviously, if you are a trader that waits for additional confirmation, which is prudent, do not get me wrong, you certainly could have waited for that 10-minute close below yesterday's low or below these wicks, which clearly has acted as horizontal support here on the 23rd. That 1060 spot has acted as support. And then here, once price got above, it acted as a pivot to the upside. Price retested and pushed higher. So you could have done that. Don't get me wrong. But the trade here was a loss to the trend line. And my goodness, Tesla ended up touching 1,000, almost got below 1,000 today, but did push off that just before close. And the contracts that I bought went from about $450 to over $40. They were a 10x. Now, had you played it just based off of our levels and the Discord alert on the 10-minute confirmation, it was about 3x. You went from about 1150 to that 40 and change mark. But all in all, a really good trade for Tesla. This flushed really hard, and that is because of the magnitude of this trend line. This was a huge trend line to lose. Okay, I'm a bit winded. I hope this helped, guys. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support.